Welcome to Raise the Bar, elevated conversations around entrepreneurship, capital raising, and real estate. I'm your host, Seth Bradley. Most people who preach positivity have never actually been tested. And here's the real question I want you to think about. Is a bad day something that happens to you or something that you agree to? Today we're getting into building from zero. Losing your health, losing your money in the same year, and then buying real estate when no bank will even touch you. If you've ever blamed circumstances for where you are and you believe that things happened to you, not for you, this one's gonna sting a little bit, but you're gonna walk away with a brand new mindset and it's gonna change your life. Let's get into it. What's up, builders? This is Raise the Bar Radio, where we talk about building wealth, raising capital, and all in all, raising the bar in your business and your life. This is the No BS podcast for capital raisers, investors, and entrepreneurs who are serious about scaling their business and living life on their own terms. I'm Seth Bradley, securities attorney, real estate investor, and entrepreneur, bringing you world-class strategies from the best in the game. If you're ready to raise more capital, close bigger deals, build a better you, and create true financial freedom, you're in the right place. Let's go. Today on Raise the Bar, we've got Jeffrey Holst. Jeff is a recovering attorney who went from a leukemia diagnosis and a personal bankruptcy to financially free in under 7 years, and he's built a portfolio of more than 300 residential units, plus commercial properties across Michigan, Tennessee, and Georgia. He wrote the book, No Bad Days, and he hosts the Old Fashioned Real Estate Show, love that name, and Last Life Ever. Jeff, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, I always like it when people have a good intro for me because I never know what to tell anyone about myself. So
good, man. Well, you're still going to have to tell us about yourself, but, I try to set you up pretty good there.
Yeah, no worries. But hey, thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely, man. Hey, tell me, when a stranger comes up to you on the street, what do you say that you do? Because some of us have an issue with that, right? We're entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We do a lot of different things. Most people, I would say out there, they have a pretty straightforward answer. But some of us, like you and I, we were like, let me think about that for a second.
Yeah. So I actually was having this conversation with my mom yesterday. So my mom said one of her friends asked her what I did, and she didn't know how to answer, and she wanted to know what I said. And I said, well, the easiest thing to say is I'm a real estate investor. Because that's, if anyone knows me for anything, that's probably what it's for. But it's not like where my real passion is. I mean, I love real estate. It's given me tons of financial freedom, and it's allowed me to travel a lot. But if I could have a dream job description, I would say I get paid to take people cool places around the world. That's like my little side hobby business. I take people on trips like to the Serengeti or to Egypt or something. And we do a couple of those a year, and that's the thing that I'm most passionate about is the travel stuff. It's really great. So
that's really cool. So do you put that on to who's invited to that? How do I get in that circle, man? What
yeah, I mean, honestly, we don't advertise very hard because it's super small groups. It's like 10, 15 people max at any trip. I mean, the Serengeti ones are usually like 10 people max, and Egypt's like 15 or so. But we're kind of rolling out more trips every year. So I kind of post them on socials and stuff. So follow me on Facebook or Instagram and keep your eyes open. You'll see it. We do have a website. It's Last Life Ever, lastlifeever.com. You can click on there and see what trips we have coming up and things like that. So,
gotcha. Cool. Awesome, man. Yeah, I'll check that out. So tell me more about that name, Last Life Ever. How did that come about?
Yeah, so that's kind of my own version of YOLO, it's like recognizing that we just get this one chance here on Earth and we got to do all the really cool stuff. So several years ago, like pre-COVID, one of my friends, a former securities attorney actually, and I started a podcast called Last Life Ever. And now we do mostly just the travel stuff together. But for a while we were doing trainings, and actually the travel thing came as like a random side thing. I was doing a goal setting retreat in Puerto Rico with her. And she said to me, we probably should give an example of like what we're talking about, because I was saying, hey, you should have goals that like satisfy more than one thing. Yeah, it's good to have a goal to make more money, but it's even better if your goal is like to make money doing something you love. And people are like, "Oh, what do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, it would be great if I got paid to take people to the Serengeti." That was just
Yeah.
like a random thought that came to my mind. And two of the people that were in that room ended up being in our very first trip. So it's amazing how that stuff can work. It's like I wrote a couple of books, but the No Bad Days is the one that most people have heard of. But I'm working on this other book called The Extraordinary Life Formula. And one of the things I always tell people is, if you want to live an extraordinary life, you just have to expose yourself to bigger and better ideas, and then you have to take action on those ideas. I mean, that's like really the super simple version of it is you just got to do a little bit extra and do it regularly, and then you get to a pretty awesome existence. So.
Yeah, I love that, man. Yeah, there are certain kind of I'll call them like influencers and people out there putting out a lot of content, and that some of those folks are like, let's put our head down and let's just work, right? Like there's nothing more than work. I think of like Alex Hormozy, right? Like he's in that mindset, and everybody that I've met that's around him, like that is who he is, right? He's not just saying that, like that's who he is, which is great. But even though for myself, I work like crazy, right? I mean, more so now than I ever did when I was working at a big law firm. Like the hours are nuts. It's insane, but I do have flexibility over my time, and I never turn down a vacation or a trip, right? Like if it's an opportunity to travel to Europe or travel to Asia or do something I've never done before, it's always yes for me. Like I don't care, right? Like that experiences and taking advantage of the time we have here on this planet is number one, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm really fortunate in a way. I mean, you said in the intro that I had leukemia when I was 30. What you didn't say is that I went from like being a pretty successful bankruptcy attorney. Like I had television commercials and a couple of other attorneys working for me, both of which quit when I got sick, which is really kind of crappy actually. But anyway, that happened. So I went from like 3 to 0 attorneys overnight. And that's what caused my personal bankruptcy was like I went from making money to losing about 5,000-6,000 a week at the law firm like overnight almost. And I also thought I was gonna die. Like I mean I really did. Like when I was diagnosed, my white blood cell count was so high that I was given to believe that I had a few weeks to live. I remember, my dad saying like, well, this is in September. Like, if you make it till February, we can go to Australia. And I was like, I'm hoping for Christmas. Like, that's the life that I was in at that moment. This is, this is 2008, so it's a long time ago now. But, gosh, it's almost 20 years ago that I thought I had weeks to live, And what happened because of that is when I didn't die, I was like, whoa, someday may never come. I have to like live my life now. And that's when I started investing in real estate. Even though I was broke and had just gone bankrupt, I was like, I got to figure this out. And I was able to, some of it's fortuitous timing because, 2010, like it was a pretty good time to start investing in real estate is the bottom of the Great Recession. But I just kept working at it, and I'm like, I'm getting a full-time job, taking all my bonuses, all my extra money, putting it into real estate, gonna do all these private money deals. I'm gonna get creative. I'm gonna figure this stuff out, and I just like worked like crazy because one, I wanted to make sure my now ex-wife would be okay if something happened to me, but also I wanted to, in case I didn't get a lot of life, I wanted to make sure that I proved to myself that I could live well. And so I made money in real estate. I worked, but I also like negotiated 5 weeks of vacation from my corporate job for less money, even though I just started there. And then I just gradually went like, okay, now 6 years later, this company is getting sold to a publicly traded company, and they wanted to move me to their legal department. And I was like, no, not going back to law, not even in-house legal, nothing like that. I'm out. And I quit my job and I never went back to work. And I had 58 single family houses at that point after 6 years and only really 2 partners. And they were all free and clear. Like, that's insane. Like, I mean, a lot of them were houses we bought for $5,000 at the bottom of the recession, fixed them up, rented them out. But I mean, we were getting like $700-800 in rent on a house we had $8,000 in. I mean, it was just crazy. This is not the 1% rule that people talk about or the 0.8% rule. It's the 10% rule. Like, it was just insane back then. And we never touched the money. We just let it accumulate. And even after I quit working, I don't know, it wasn't a lot of money. I think I had like $60,000 in the bank or something. It's not zero. It's comfortable, but and of course this is 10, 12 years ago, so it was more than that now in today's money. But I just said to my wife at the time, I said, listen, I'm not going to go back to work, and if 6 months from now we still have 60,000 in the bank, it proves that I don't need to work. And she was like, okay, I guess. But if we don't have it, it's going to be a problem. And I did like a burr strategy, to make some money. And I just did some hustle stuff in the real estate thing. And at the end of 6 months, we had like $62,000 in the bank. And I was like, I win. Let's see if we can do another 6 months. And then another year went by, and then we had like, triple that in the bank or something. And I was like, oh, well, obviously this works. But I would have never had that freedom to like focus on real estate full time had I not taken that leap of faith, which I don't know if I would have done if I hadn't gotten sick. So to circle back to my point, I feel very lucky that I got sick when I did. I was just talking about this with my lady today, like, because somebody at her work got hit by a car and died. And I mean, geez, talk about terrible, prime of your life, got a couple of kids and just done. But that kind of stuff, we have to learn from it. I mean, obviously we feel for their family and that person and whatever, but we also have to take something away from it ourselves and say, we just don't know. Like a meteor could fall through the roof right now and kill me. I hope that doesn't happen, but if it does, at least I had a good life, right? Like I set some big goals and I did a lot of cool stuff. I mean, this year I've been to, I went to Tanzania twice, Egypt twice, Guatemala, Ecuador, Qatar. next month I'm going to Saudi Arabia. That wasn't even on like the bingo card at all, but like it was a good deal. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I can go to Saudi Arabia really cheap. I should check that out.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Yeah, so much to unpack there, but one of the big questions I was going to ask you was you answered it already. If that didn't happen to you, would you have even had the perspective to do all those things, right? To take those risks, to just take action like that without that happening to you. But it sounds like you would not have, right? Or maybe you don't know, right? But
I mean, we can only live the life we have, right? So I always traveled some. I always, when I was diagnosed, I had just gotten back from Peru. It's not like I wasn't traveling at all. I'd been in Machu Picchu and I had backpacked around Europe while I was in undergrad for a summer. So, I had already been to, I don't know, half dozen, maybe a dozen countries even. And so, I mean, it wasn't like I was like, slacking on travel. But I was like, when I was 15, I was watching like infomercials about buying real estate for no money down. And I hadn't bought any real estate other than my primary house. I was 30 years old. I hadn't bought any because I kept going like, well, when I have more money, I'll do the real estate thing. And like, when I get my career established, I'll do that. And, and the bankruptcy work was fine. I didn't mind it. And it was kind of fun filming TV commercials and stuff like that, like it was cool to be the Better Call Saul of West Michigan before that was a thing. But at the same time, like I probably would have just been I'd already given up bad days like when I was 17. So, I mean, I haven't had a bad day since I was 17 and that's like 31 years now, which is insane. But I would have just been like a, marginally happy, like, but unsatisfied with life bankruptcy attorney. Maybe I would have run for a township office or something, but I would have my life would have been wildly different had I not made that choice.
Yeah, totally. What advice do you have for people listening that maybe they haven't had that catastrophic event happen to them and, God forbid we don't want that happening. Yeah. But give them some advice to, move. Yeah, well, obviously take action, do things without that happening, right?
Yeah, I would definitely not. I definitely wouldn't wish leukemia on anyone because it wasn't the most pleasant thing ever, but it is what it is. But what I would say is there's opportunity everywhere. People are always like, oh, I'm waiting for opportunity to knock, but that's complete BS. Opportunity is always there. It's waiting for us to grab the door handle, pull it open. So the trick is just to find that opportunity and then to open the doors for yourself. And I think the best way to find the opportunity, if I were to step back to my extraordinary life formula, I think the word extraordinary is actually an extraordinary word. So it's really two words, extra and ordinary, right? So ordinary is what we all have. And if you do the little bit extra, you get to extraordinary. And the extra, to me, I break it down like this. The E and the X stand for exponential thoughts. So The EXT actually stands for exponential thoughts, right? So it's EXT from extra. And the exponential thoughts, you just got to expose yourself to them. That's going to listen to podcasts. That's going to conferences. That's talking to people doing the kinds of things that you want. But it's also asking yourself empowering questions like, what's something that I can do today for the first time that I've never tried before? Or when's the last time I did something for the first time? That's a really good question too. Like, just ask yourself, when's the last time I did something for the first time? I mean, I had this this is kind of wild and I probably shouldn't tell people, but whatever, it is what it is. It's life. Like last week I was in Puerto Rico, right? I have a condo in Puerto Rico. And I was in Puerto Rico at a friend's house, and he's got this compound. It's 7 acres of rainforest, and there's a waterfall there with a cliff jump. That's a 35-foot cliff jump. And it's the waterways are technically public, but it's a private compound. It's hard to get there without crossing his land, right? Mm-hmm. So it's almost always just us or our friends there. So I'm hanging out there, and he has this charter sailboat company, and he says, hey, I got to go work on the boat, and I'm taking Krista, his wife, with because she's a sailboat captain. We're going to go work on the boat. You can either come with us to the boat and just sit around on the boat, or you can stay here and hang out in the rainforest. Well, I chose to stay and hang out in the rainforest by myself because why not, right? It's just this amazing experience. And I'm there's a waterfall and a cliff jump. And I think to myself, something I have never done is naked cliff jumping. so I'm going to do this. I'm only telling this story because it's ridiculous. But I went and did that. And then, of course, somebody was swimming in the watering hole when I came out of the canal, and I was like, "Oh, oops, this is kind of complicated." But they started swimming the other way, and I just got out and walked up to the house, and I was like, I don't know where they came from because there's no way to get there, but they were there. But anyway, the point is that question caused me to that's something I ask myself every day. What's something I can do today that I've never done before? And sometimes it's something crazy like that, but sometimes it's just driving a different way to work, and then I see vacant land and go, whoa, I didn't know that was there, or whatever. So I think that's really the first step, is just to expose yourself to exponential thoughts and ideas and see the opportunity that are there. And then to kind of wrap up the extra, the second half of extra, the R and the A, that just stands for right action. So if you take the right action, that's not any action. It has to be the right action. And so you do need to spend some time to asking what, where, when, why questions, figure out what it is that the next best step is. But you also have to live by one of my favorite quotes. And I used to think that I stole it from someone, but I've never found it anywhere online except for me saying it. So maybe I made it up at some point.
Must be yours.
Yeah, I'm going to claim it. Why not? We're claiming it right now. I think that's how that works. We're setting the precedents. But what I always say is, the difference between successful people and people that never succeed is successful people take action without all of the possible information, right? They have some information, but you don't want to get into that analysis paralysis and just never do anything. And that's really where I think getting sick helped me, because it caused me to say, it's time to go, right? I got to do this right now. And sometimes any action is better than none. If you shoot a rocket ship to the International Space Station and you miss by 12,000 miles, it doesn't really matter as long as you got to orbit. You know what I mean? You did something. You got the hard part out of the way, and then you just make those little adjustments to get over there. And I think that's one thing we have to remember is as long as you're going generally in the right direction, obviously if you shoot a rocket straight at the Earth, not going to help. But if you're going the general right direction towards your goal, you can always make those adjustments later. And sometimes the action matters more than anything else. So to answer your question in the longest possible way, just do something.
Yeah. Hey, sum that up. What's the extraordinary life formula? I know you kind of went through that.
Yeah. So
just sum that up.
Yeah, it's literally just the recognizing that extraordinary is just doing a little bit extra above the ordinary, and that extra is exponential thought plus the right action. So come up with a big idea, take the right action on that idea, and then you become extraordinary or get to live that an extraordinary life. And I think everyone who has amazing lives follows this formula. They probably don't call it the extraordinary life formula, but they have a cool idea and then they go take action on it. That's how we get an extraordinary life if we really simplify it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then you also mentioned no bad days since you're 17. Is that what you said? Tell me what
17.
that means. What is that's got to be a mindset thing. Like what?
Yeah. I mean, another thing I'm really fortunate about, like I don't have any explanation of how I came up with this concept other than I just did. But I mean, I wrote about this in my book, so some people probably heard it before, but I woke up at 17 and I won't say like clinically depressed, but I was dealing with teenage angst. And my parents were separating. I broke up with a girlfriend I thought I was going to marry. All this stuff going on. And I went into a bathroom with a knife and I held it on my wrist. I don't know if I was going to kill myself or not. I really don't. I mean, it's so long ago. Who knows, right? But at that moment, I know that I was not happy. And I was looking in the mirror, and this blade was serrated, and it hurt when I had it on my wrist. And I thought, why do I want more pain? Like, why more pain? What I'm going to do today is I'm going to try to have a good day. That's literally what I said. And I threw the knife away, actually. I literally threw it in the trash in the bathroom. And I said, today I'm going to have a good day. And I just said into the mirror, today's a good day 10 times. And then I committed to myself that I would say today's a good day every time I saw a mirror and I was alone. I didn't do it when people were around, but anytime I saw a mirror, bathroom, car mirror, didn't matter. If I saw a mirror, I would say out loud, today's a good day 10 times. And if I was with people, I would think it 10 times. And the next day wasn't a good day. The day after that wasn't a good day. Like, it didn't like magically solve everything. But a few weeks went by of this like persistent, we'll call it an affirmation, a declarative statement of some kind. I didn't know, and this is like in the 90s. Like, I never heard of like Tony Robbins and YouTube, and Google didn't exist yet. So I didn't know what I was doing, but I was doing it. I was doing affirmations. And I walked into a 7-Eleven, and the guy behind the counter said to me, he says, how you doing today? And I said, I never have bad days. And then I stopped and I went, holy shit, I never have bad days. I realized I couldn't remember the last time I had a bad day. It had been like a couple of months of consistently good days. And I went, I should remember this. And I just kept doing it. And when I got diagnosed with leukemia, this is 10 years later, 13 years later, people came into the hospital room and they're like, oh, I bet today's a bad day. And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't get diagnosed till 10 o'clock at night. Most of the day was pretty good, And then the next day, I was sitting in the hospital thinking I was dying. And I was like, man, I got to find something to make this day a good day because this is my whole identity at this point. It's been like more than a decade. And so I'm just thinking like, what's the positive that can come from this? What's the positive that can come from this? And there was a shift change. And this nurse came in and she looks at me and she goes, oh my God, Jeff, I'm so sorry to see you here. And I went, oh my God, Shelly, I'm so happy to be here. She was like a childhood babysitter of mine I hadn't seen in like a decade. And I was just like, wow, this is so great. Like, I get to see Shelly. And that was enough to make that day feel good to me. And what I realized in that moment was that it's your individual subjective perspective about the day that controls how you receive the day. So like, however you perceive the day, that's how you receive it. Right? So somewhere in the world right now, someone's having the worst day of their life. Someone else is having the best day of their life. So the day, it's neither good nor bad. It's just how those individuals are thinking about it. And when I realized that, and then later when I heard Hal Elrod, the Miracle Morning guys, say that the moment you take responsibility for everything in your life is the moment you can change anything in your life. When I heard those things, I was like, this is how this works. It's like I chose to not have bad days. Yes, bad stuff's going to happen to me. But I can learn from the bad stuff, and I can focus on the positive. Be grateful for the good things. I saw my babysitter, and learn what I needed to learn from the diagnosis. And I did learn from it. And I, because of that attitude, was able to track down the best doctors in the world, like literally calling regularly to the doctor that invented the treatment that saved my life until she took me into her practice. Multiple calls every day. Until she got sick of me and said, okay, fine, I'll see you. Like that. Like, and I don't know if it changed anything because I got the same diagnosis. I got the same treatment protocol, but I wanted her opinion because she invented the protocol they put me on. And, and that kind of stuff does matter, like taking responsibility for it. And, there's a quote from the Dalai Lama that I really love about worrying. He says, it never makes sense to worry because either you can do something about it or you can't. And if you can do something, just go do that. And if you can't, the worrying isn't going to help. And that's kind of how I think about the good and bad days thing. It's like when bad stuff happens to you, like, can I do something about it? If I can, let's go do that. If I can't, then then it's an irrelevant data point. I should just accept it and move on. Yeah, if I get sick again and I find out I'm going to die tomorrow, yeah, I won't be happy about it, but I'm not going to let it ruin today, because that's tomorrow. I can worry about tomorrow. I'm just going to enjoy whatever time I have for as long as I have. And that, combined with getting sick, combined with not having bad days, and then combining it with like something like the Extraordinary Life Formula, has produced the best possible life I can imagine. I can't, like, every bad thing that happens to me makes my life better. I swear, it's ridiculous how great my life has gotten.
Gosh, man, I love that. There's so many concepts in there that you've, alluded to there. I mean, control over your life, like control what you can control, not what you can't. Accountability, responsibility. I think about, things aren't happening to you. They're just happening, right? They just happen, right? It's not happening to you. It's not, it's how you react to those things that matters from a, physically, mentally, whatever it is. It's your attitude towards it, right? So bad things can happen. Some of the worst things that you described that can happen to a human being happen to you, but you still found a way to find the good in it, to find a way to not make it a bad day, and find the positivity in it. Pardon the interruption, but we don't do ads. Instead, know that if you're raising capital for real estate, my law firm, Raise Law, is here to give you the expert legal guidance you need to raise capital compliantly and structure and close your deal. And if you're looking for a done-for-you fund-to-fund solution, TribeVest is the industry's only all-in-one setup and fund administration solution. Visit raise.law and tribevest.com to learn more.
Yeah, and I said bad things, so I'm not taking objection to what you just said, but I'm not even sure that that's even accurate. In a lot of ways, it's like some stuff other people would judge as bad has happened to me, but like getting leukemia changed my life for the better. Like that day is probably one of the best days of my life, because otherwise I would still be the bankruptcy attorney in Michigan, which is fine, but I wouldn't have a condo in Puerto Rico. I wouldn't be considering moving to Tanzania, which I'm considering right now. Like, I literally might move to Tanzania before the end of the year. I mean, how wild is that, right? Like it's like this stuff that it makes my life so amazing would not have occurred if not for that. So I could say, yeah, it was objectively bad, but honestly, that's just a story we tell ourselves, right? Like, if something happens, we get to decide if it's good or bad, just like we get to decide if the day is good or bad. And so really, if we step back, I always say good and bad things happen to everyone because it's easier for people to understand. And like, as you can see, I think about this stuff a lot, and I've been thinking about it for 30 years. So for me to summarize like that whole philosophy and be really clear about it in a 35-minute podcast, it's not really possible. I call that hashtagification. It's like when you have like a mental hashtag for something, like no bad days. That's cool. I wrote it on my arm in Spanish and Swahili, right? So I have Hakuna Sin Kumbaya and No Dias Malos on my arms in tattoos. And those things remind me of something. But I also like clearly 3 words, no bad days, is not the same as reading my whole book. But even reading my whole book doesn't explain the whole philosophy, because it's something I've developed myself personally over forever. And I think like hashtagging stuff in your brain is actually a really convenient way to like hold huge concepts for yourself. And like what that means to you is going to be different than what it means to me. Like we're never going to have the exact same lived experience, but we can also still be like, I get the concept. Life's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great hack, right? That's a great mental hack there. The hashtagging in your head so that you remember, because, sometimes we're entrepreneurs, we read a bunch of books, we're on to the next one. But if you don't remember something, right, something you can take away and use and remember, then it just kind of goes out one ear and the other. But that's great. Like think about even just like 1 word or 2 words that remind you of that concept. You're like, oh, yeah, great. And you can keep applying that over and over again.
Yeah, it's like when we used to highlight paper books before we all read online and stuff, like you'd highlight the important passages. That's how I try to do it. Like if you read like Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference, there's tons of gold in there. Like I'm not going to remember every single thing in there, but I'll remember the general concepts. And so like for me, when I'm thinking about negotiating with somebody about something, if I stop for a second and go, never split the difference. Okay, cool. Now I remember. I'm in Chris Voss mode. You know what I mean? That's my
Right, for
hashtag
sure,
for negotiating. Like,
for sure. What's your country count? Because you've thrown out so many
yeah.
different countries and places you visited. What's your country and I guess state? What's your state and country count right
Yeah, so I have a goal. I'll tell you the goal first and then I'll tell you where I'm
now?
at.
Okay.
So my goal for the last decade or so is what I call the 50-50-57 goal. So 50 countries, 50 states, 7 continents before I turn 50. So that's the goal. And I'm 48, so I'm getting really close to 50. So if I want to hit the goal, I need to have 50 countries, 50 states, 7 continents. So where I'm at right now, 50 states, done, 7 continents, done, which by the way, Antarctica is amazing, so you should go there sometime. And I'm at 45 countries. So I have 5 to go.
I think you got this. I think
I
you
got
got
it.
it.
I've got it
I
for
think
sure.
you
Yeah,
got
I'm gonna
it.
have, and I'm going to Saudi next month, so then I'll have 46 countries. Honestly, if I didn't keep going back to the same places, I would have gotten it a long time ago. Like this year, I was saying I went to Ecuador, which was new, and Guatemala, which was new. Oh, and also Belgium and Luxembourg, which are new. So I hit some new countries this year, and Qatar. So I guess I hit 5 new countries this year. But I went to Egypt twice. I went to Tanzania twice, and I've been to both of those like this is the 6th time I went to Egypt and like the 5th time I went to Tanzania. And then plus I went to Puerto Rico like 10 times, which I mean, I know it's not a different country, but like it's still travel. And so I'm spending time in Puerto Rico and I'm spending time in Tanzania and I'm spending time in Egypt. And I love doing that because when I go to Egypt and I walk into my friend's shop, he won't let me buy stuff because he's known me for 25 years. You know, like he's just like, no, you can have that for your mom. Your mom will love that. It's a souvenir shop and I can't pay him for anything. Like it's amazing to have, you know, friends of that caliber all over the world. And it's the same in Tanzania, actually. I have, you know, friends in the north of Tanzania. I have friends in Dar es Salaam. And it's just so, it's so great to be able to do that. And same with, I was in Rotterdam for New Year's this year, hanging out at my friend's house. You know, like these, like, I could have went somewhere else instead of the Netherlands. You know, I could have went to like Romania down the street or Poland or something and got a new country. But, you know, sometimes you just got to enjoy the time that you have. So you got to, that's actually one of my other hacks is like when you set a goal for yourself, it's really motivating. It's great, but give yourself lots of time and, you know, be flexible and don't worry about it. Cause like sometimes your goal can change. You know, I have this thing I call, the 100 things list. I used to teach this at goal setting events, and it's literally 100 things that I want to do during my lifetime. I don't call it a bucket list because I don't ever want to finish it. Because when I got leukemia, I had like, I was in like, when I backpacked around Europe when I was 21, I was sitting on the steps above at this church above the Colosseum, looking down at the Colosseum, and I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I think I'll just go become a lawyer so I can make money and travel more and see old stuff. So I made a little mental bucket list, and it was like, I'm going to go to the pyramids, I'm going to go to Petra in Jordan, and I'm going to go to Machu Picchu. And so that was like literally my bucket list, those 3 places. And I went to law school, and I started practicing law, and I started making money, and I went to Egypt, and I went to Jordan. And then finally, in 2008, I went to Machu Picchu, and I came back, and 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with leukemia. Like I finished my bucket list at 30 and 2 weeks later I was dying. So I have a little bit of a triggering effect when it comes to bucket lists. I'm like, well, one thing is I need to add stuff to this list immediately because I don't want to die.
Don't want to run out and something bad.
But too, I don't really want to have a bucket list anymore. Like it sounds terrible. So I changed it to a life list and I call it the 100 things list. And what I do with the 100 things list is 100 is actually really hard to come up with. Like the first 10, 15 are easy. Oh, I want to go to space. I want to have $1 million in cash. It doesn't matter, right? Like whatever it is you want to do. Like, and then you start going like, okay, around 20, 25, you're like, well, it would be pretty cool to like address a crowd of 100,000 people, you know, or something like that, you know? And then it's like, then you're like, what else do I want to do? And then you're tempted to like Google ideas, but you don't want to do that. You got to come up with them on your own because the real growth comes from pushing yourself, right? And then the other thing that you got to remember is it's a living list, you know? Like, one of the things on my list was I want to have kids, right? This is 20 years ago. I don't have kids. I'm 48. Like, am I going to have kids? Maybe. But, like, my ex-wife didn't want to have kids, so we didn't have kids. And then for a while, I was engaged to someone who already had kids, and, like, she was old enough that she wasn't going to have more kids. And and I accepted that, and I just took it off the list. I'm only going to have kids anymore. It's fine. Now, became single again after that, and then I was like, well, maybe I'll have kids. So, it came back. But it's like the Constitution, man. It's like, you can change it if you want, but you do want to stick to it as much as you can, right? Like, there's some good stuff there. So the other thing is, it doesn't matter if you have 100 things on the list. If you have 100 things and you cross one off, you just come up with a new one and get back to 100, right? And I've never had 100 though. The most I've ever had was 87. I can never come up with the last ones. Like, but then I'll be like on a plane. I'll have like 80 on there. I'm on a plane and I'm telling, because I love talking about this stuff. I remember this, like, literally, this is a true story. I'm talking to the girl sitting next to me in first class on a plane, and we're like stuck on the tarmac, like they're not taking off for weather or something. And we're just sitting there talking. And I'm telling her, oh, I just got back from this trip, and she's just coming back from Mexico, and we're talking about our lives and goals and whatever. And this is probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And actually, I'm still friends with this lady now. Like, I don't hang out with her very often, but we'll get together like once a year because she lives in Chattanooga and I have an apartment here also. Anyway, so and she just had a baby and got married and she's doing awesome. So, but we were talking about these goals, right? And she says, "Can I see your list?" And I show it to her, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that's really good. This is really good." She's like, "You need to put down the butterfish at Roy's in Honolulu. Like, you got to eat the butterfish at Roy's in Honolulu." And I go, "Okay. Why not? I got room on the list. Let's throw it on there," right? That was like 2022. So 2024, I am doing this whirlwind tour of Asia. I'm spending a month with a single carry-on backpack in Asia, like Japan, Bali, Singapore, South Korea. And I had to go do a podcast interview in Maui. And so I found this flight from South Korea to Honolulu, and I did an overnight in Honolulu and then flew from there to Maui because there was no good flights that I could get to Maui from Singapore, because who knew that wasn't like a common route, right? Yeah. Or whatever. So I was like Singapore to South Korea to Honolulu. And I have this friend in Honolulu, and I messaged him and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be in Honolulu for one night. You want to get some dinner?" And he's like, "Sure, where do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Roy's. I'm going to have the butterfish." You know what I mean? I went and had this butterfish. I never in a million years would have experienced that. And it was good. It wasn't actually as good as the swordfish my friend had. So she was wrong about that. But it was an amazing restaurant. I had a beautiful evening. And it's only because I happened to share this with somebody on a plane once, like 3 years earlier. And that's the thing about life. It's like you can't really understand how it's going to work until you look at it backwards. Steve Jobs had a talk about connecting the dots and only being able to connect them after the fact. He was talking about how when he was in undergrad, he took a calligraphy class, and that's why Mac looks the way it looks, stuff like that. Like he studied like characters and figured out how to create his own typeset because of this calligraphy class that he took. And he's like, I had no idea. I just thought it was interesting. So I took a calligraphy class. And I think that's how life works. I mean, we just got to expose ourselves to as much cool stuff as we can. And that's why I love travel, but it's also why I love reading. It's why I love going on podcasts. I also love hosting podcasts. I don't do it anymore, but you meet such cool people that way.
Totally. Cool people like you, man. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, thanks.
This has been an incredible conversation. Like we didn't even get into real estate and finance and raising capital, because that stuff's boring, right? The stuff that you've been talking about
pays the bills, though.
It is. So I will end on that. So just one question, how has kind of real estate, you've got all these units, how has real estate kind of helped you be able to live this incredible life that you've been able to live and that you're living right now?
Well, to be honest, capital raising side of real estate, the syndicating stuff, paid my bills by getting, fees and refinances and stuff like that for a long time. But that has not given me like any money for a long time. Like we haven't done any new deals. Right. We haven't refinanced stuff. We haven't lost money, so that's good. But we're like barely hitting our pref rates. We're hitting them, but we're barely hitting them. So there's nothing left for me to get on that. So it really hasn't helped that much. So a lot of my real estate feels like dead weight. I mean, it's not, because it's still amortizing down and building equity and net worth, and stuff seems to be turning around now. So I think it's fine, and we're actually way fortunate compared to a lot of other real estate investors in that situation that have had deals that have just gone completely bad.
If you're still paying a full pref right now, you're crushing it, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Like, we're hitting our numbers, we're just not hitting our optimistic numbers. But we didn't buy anything. Like when COVID hit, I was like, guys, we got to buy everything we can. Like, they're lending us money at below the rate of inflation. We're going to borrow as much as we can because, like, even if we bought toilet paper, we would come out ahead. And so we just went on this like spree of buying stuff. And then inflation started hitting, and I was like, whoa, brakes, guys. Like, interest rates are going to start going up again. This is going to correct itself. Now we're just going to chill. And that's what we did, and that's really, really lucky, actually. That's my second good timing point in my life. The first one was buying in 2010, and then the second one was not buying in 2021 and 2022. When everyone else was just like, oh, I'm going to buy everything. And I was just like, I feel okay. Okay. And the stuff we bought in 2021 in the early part of the year did okay. The stuff we bought before that is still crushing, Right. And like stuff that people bought in 2023, bro, it's not good. I've friends that have lost all of their investor equity, and in some cases all of their own money. I have one friend that actually literally went bankrupt because of a deal that he had, and lost other investors money at the same time. And I've been really fortunate, and I'm really happy about that, but it hasn't really paid my bills. So I've had to do other stuff to pay my bills, but it's fine. Fortunately, I had some savings. I really didn't want to work too hard because I really enjoy the travel lifestyle that I've built for myself. So I started doing the travel company, and that doesn't make a ton of money, but it offsets a lot of my cost. And and it's going to make some money. Like, we're doing a 22-day trip coming up in February, 10 people, and we're calling it the Wonders of Africa. It's Egypt, Jordan, and the Tanzanian Serengeti Safari Circuit. So like 5 national parks, Zanzibar, Dar es Salaam, Cairo, Luxor, a Nile riverboat cruise, and also going to Jordan to see Petra, all in a single trip. I mean, that's just so awesome. Like, I get 3 weeks, and it's, of course, because, the company pays for it for me, so it costs me nothing. I get this amazing experience with like 10 people that I love, because every time we go on these trips, they're like my friends and family, or like just people that I end up loving by the end of the trip, because we don't, it's such a small group, you get to know everyone, and then still make a couple of bucks on that. So like, if I can do that kind of stuff, I'm fine. And then the other thing that happened is I still have some real estate that I did before I syndicated, and that stuff still pays. So I still have cash flow, even though it doesn't come from the capital raise side of it anymore.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, I'm talking about kind of the whole story, right? Because you started investing, 2008, 2009, 2010, when it was awesome, and that kind of, that started that.
Built a ton of equity, which really helps, because you can live on equity. I mean, you can't eat equity, but you can sell it, and then you can eat that money, And so we have done some of that too. And the thing is, you refinance or sell every once in a while, and in the stuff that we have, it all has good equity in it, so it'll all be fine in the long run. That's the good part. Like, we're still paying our bills, and like I said, we're still hitting our prefs, so I feel pretty good about it. I don't have any investor that can look at me and say, you didn't deliver what you said you would, and that makes me happy. But that's also very fortunate, because like I said, it's not all just skill. Some of it's like reading the tea leaves and getting lucky, and also, like, I went through a divorce around then, so I was a little distracted, so I didn't want to do deals. That's just pure luck, like, I mean, thank you, ex-wife, for deciding that's the exact moment that you wanted to go through that. And I was going to buy a safari lodge at the time, and I didn't buy it, and I'm kind of glad I didn't, because like, that was like all right around like, COVID time, and stuff started falling apart, in the travel industry, and like, it's fine now, but like, what I have developed now, my travel business is so much better than owning a safari lodge in Tanzania would be for me right now. So
yeah, I'll just say, it's tough to kind of decide or to figure out like who were the good operators versus who maybe weren't the good operators during that little time period, because if you were buying in that time period, right, 2022, 2023, 2024, then it's tough to make it work. If you got an adjustable rate loan, you're in trouble, right? So
yeah, but even
a great operator or a poor one.
Yeah, even if you didn't have an adjustable rate loan, though, like if you bought in 2022, a $10 million property is worth $7 million today. Like you put 25% down and all the equity's gone, even if it's still paying for itself. And then if you have, even if it's not adjustable rate, but if you have like a 5-year loan or something, that thing's coming up where the bank's going to say, if you want to keep this debt, you got to get your equity back up. We're going to appraise this property. It's worth $7 million and you owe us $7.5. So you need to give us $2.5 million.
Yep.
And they don't have it. That happened to one of my friends. He had negotiated a cash-in refi that he was going to put $2 million in, and when they appraised it, they told him, "Never mind, you got to put $10 million in." You have the money. Like, had to give the property back. At least it was non-recourse. But I mean, like, that's really, really crappy. And like, you know, we're doing some stuff now to like, I'm analyzing some of these deals because I think some of these deals are actually good deals now. Like if you can get them for their debt service, or you can get them for you know a lower dollar amount than you can buy stuff 30% cheaper than you could 3 years ago, because we're basically at what it feels to me like the bottom of a multifamily recession.
Agreed.
Like it feels like we're starting to turn around, and I think it's a good time to buy.
Yep, I agree.
Maybe I'll get lucky one more time, and then I will never have money again.
I'm going to be watching, Jeff. I'm going to see, because I know you've got that lucky streak in you. So I'm going to see what you're doing, and I'll be like, all right, I see it. I see what he's doing. So that must be time to move.
Well, I hope it works out that way for both of us, actually.
All right, Jeff. It's been great talking to you, brother. Where can our listeners find out more about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm Jeffrey Holst everywhere, so socials, all of them. I mean, everything from like TikTok, Instagram, Be Real, doesn't matter. It's Jeffrey Holst. And my website's jeffreyholst.com or lastlifeever.com. Either one's fine.
Awesome, brother. Great to meet you. Great talking to you. You're welcome back anytime, man.
Yeah, man. Had a great time. Thanks.
Okay, builders, that's a wrap. If you got value from this conversation, if it stretched your thinking, challenged your assumptions, or opened your eyes to new possibilities, just do me a quick favor, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's how we can continue to attract high-level guests like Jeffrey and deliver conversations that actually raise the bar in your business and in your life. One more thing, if you're raising capital or thinking about launching a fund, I built something for you. It's called the Fund Founders Playbook. This is the actual framework behind hundreds of funds, billions in closed deals, the legal structure, the capital raising strategy, the compliance blueprint, all of it, it's yours for free. Go get it at SethBradleyESQ.com. And as always, enjoy the journey and raise the bar. Let's go. Thanks for tuning in to Raise the Bar Radio. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Keep pushing, keep building, and keep raising the bar. Until next time, enjoy the journey.